The galaxy had countless dangerous planets, worlds where storms tore mountains apart, where creatures walked on 6 legs with jaws strong enough to crush starship metal, where the air itself could melt bone. But none of these frightened the Dravakar, the deadliest deathwelders in the known universe. They were tall, armored in natural bone plates, with black eyes that glowed like dying stars, and voices that shook the courage out of most species. For thousands of years, they had conquered planets without fear, walking through fire, acid, and toxic winds like they were nothing. Entire empires whispered their name, mothers scared their children with stories of them, and every council meeting across the galaxy had one rule: never anger the Dravakar. But today, the Dravakar were not looking for a fight. They were looking for science, a planet to test, study, and possibly colonize. Their scanners had found a blue world on the edge of a quiet system. A planet with oxygen, water, stable weather, forests, life, and nothing dangerous listed in the galactic databases. The Dravakar had laughed. A soft world? A gentle world? A world ruled by weak creatures called humans. This would be their easiest expedition yet. Their warship hovered above Earth like a silent shadow. The Dravakar leader, Commander Graction, stood on the landing platform with pride swelling through his chest. Remember, he growled to his warriors, this planet is harmless. We will complete the mission in 2 hours. His soldiers roared in agreement, slamming their fists against their armor. They were unstoppable. They were fearless. They were deathwelders. When the landing pod dropped from the ship and streaked toward Earth's atmosphere, the warriors smirked, confident, relaxed. But the moment the pod reached the upper layers of Earth's sky, something strange happened. "Commander, the heat shields are destabilizing," a soldier shouted. Graction frowned. "Impossible. Our shields survive lava storms." But the shield readouts glowed red. Earth's atmosphere, thick and rich with gases unknown to most planets, wrapped around the pod like living fire. The pod began to rumble, then shake violently. "Stabilize it." Graction roared. It's not working," the pilot yelled. "The gases are reacting with our alloy." The Dravakar shouted in alarm as the pod was thrown downward faster than expected. Flames licked the sides. Sparks burst inside the cabin. One young warrior, Vrax, gripped the side panel and yelled, "What kind of atmosphere is this? It's melting the ship." Graction didn't answer, because he didn't know. The Dravakar had never seen a planet with air that fought back. When the pod finally slammed into an empty field, carving a long mark across the dirt, the warriors crawled out coughing, their armor smoking. "Check your suits," Graction commanded. They checked, and froze. Their armor, the strongest in the galaxy, the armor that survived acid rain and volcanic lightning storms, was burning. Earth's oxygen-rich air mixed with humidity in a way their armor wasn't designed for. The outer layers hissed, cracked, and fell apart in strips. "This cannot be," a warrior growled, slapping at the melting shoulder plate. But the terror didn't stop there. The moment they took one step onto Earth's soil, their legs felt heavy. Too heavy. "Commander, I cannot lift my foot," Vrax shouted, straining. Graction gritted his teeth as gravity pressed down on him like invisible boulders. "This planet has crushing force," their biologist gasped. "Stronger than anything we have measured." The Dravakar were used to planets with harsh conditions, but Earth was different. It didn't kill through violence. It killed through quiet physics. The gravity twisted their spines. The air burned their lungs. The microbes in the dirt sensed foreign life and attacked, swarming toward the Dravakar's exposed skin with the hunger of an invisible army. Within minutes, rashes spread across their limbs. Their breathing grew labored. Their muscles trembled. "Commander," one warrior whispered in horror, "this world is not soft." Graction wheezed, dropping to one knee, his bones creaking under the weight. "This world is a death world beyond death worlds." But they weren't done suffering. Suddenly, Earth's wind shifted, carrying pollen from the field. The yellow dust touched their faces. And the strongest warrior of the Dravakar, the legendary soldier Carax, the one who had defeated beasts the size of mountains, fell to the ground screaming. "He's having an allergic reaction," the medic shouted in disbelief. Carax's throat swelled. His eyes teared. His body shook with violent tremors. From flowers. From simple flowers. The Dravacar panicked. "This planet is uncharted madness. This air is poison. These microbes are alive with rage. Commander, request evacuation." But Graction couldn't hold his communicator straight. His hands shook. His vision blurred. Earth's gravity pressed down harder, squeezing the life out of him. And then the final horror struck. Their weapons malfunctioned. One warrior pointed his plasma rifle at a nearby rock to test it. The weapon sparked, sputtered, and died. "Our weapons don't work in this planet's field," he whispered. The Dravacar, the apex predators of the galaxy, stood helpless in the middle of an Earth field. Their armor failing. Their lungs burning. Their weapons useless. Their strongest warrior unconscious. Their legs numb. Their skin crawling with Earth's microbes. Their pride shattered. And humans hadn't even shown up yet. Graction fell to one knee, groaning, his voice shaking with disbelief. "What is this cursed world?" Vrax, clutching his chest as he struggled to breathe, whispered in terror. "If this planet is this dangerous, then what kind of creatures survive here every day?" Silence fell over the group. A silence filled with real, raw fear. The kind of fear the Dravacar had never felt in their entire history. For the first time, they realized something horrifying. The Dravacar had never felt weakness before. Weakness was something they associated with prey, not with themselves, not with the most feared species in the galaxy. But as the first minutes passed on Earth's surface, their bodies betrayed them in ways they didn't understand, ways that filled their alien hearts with a terror they had never experienced. Their commander, a massive creature with armor-like skin and glowing red eyes, tried to stand tall, tried to bark orders, but his knees wobbled under the crushing pull of Earth's gravity, and he stumbled, something no Dravacar warrior had ever done. His soldiers stared at him with wide, confused eyes as if watching a god fall. They tried to lift him, but each movement sent violent tremors through their bones. Their breath came out ragged. The air, so clean, so simple, so harmless to humans, felt like knives slicing into their lungs. One soldier screamed, clutching his face, as tiny Earth microbes crawled into his skin, burning it with invisible fire, and he begged the commander to authorize retreat. Another soldier fell backward, writhing on the ground as his armor melted. Their advanced technology, strong enough to survive the radiation storms of Cartes 12, was cracking under Earth's gentle sunlight. Their sensors kept glitching with strange warnings. Unknown toxin, unknown gravity levels, unknown pressure, unknown biological threat. Every warning was something no Dravacar had ever seen before. Their homeworld was a nightmare planet filled with volcanoes, acid lakes, and storms that tore mountains apart. Yet none of those horrors made them feel the way Earth did in these first terrible minutes. For the first time in their lives, the Dravacar felt fragile. The commander groaned, trying to rise, his claws sinking into the dirt. "Earth is lying," he growled through clenched teeth. "This planet is not soft, not gentle. It is a killer hiding behind a harmless mask." His soldiers trembled. They had never heard fear in their commander's voice. One of them, the youngest warrior, whimpered, "Commander, we are the strongest Deathwelders. How can this be?" The commander's chest rose and fell in painful gasps. "It means this world is stronger than us," he whispered. Panic spread like wildfire across their ranks. Some tried to run back toward the shuttle, but Earth's gravity yanked their feet from under them, sending them crashing into the ground face first. Others collapsed entirely, unable to fight the overwhelming pressure on their bones. Their weapons, meant to fire ultra-hot plasma, began to spark and shut down under Earth's humidity. One elite soldier dropped his weapon and yelled in fear, "This planet is rejecting us. Earth is killing us." The commander wanted to scream at them to stop panicking, to stand together as Dravacar warriors, to remember their pride, but as another jolt of Earth's gravity crushed his chest, the words choked in his throat. The dirt around him shook as another soldier fell. Their screams filled the forest like wounded animals. Birds flew away in panic. Small earth insects crawled onto their armor, and each contact made their skin burn like acid. Earth's harmless creatures were tearing through their elite warriors as if nature itself was rejecting their presence. The commander, desperate and terrified, slammed his fist into the ground, trying to regain control. Find shelter. Find cover. Earth is attacking us. Move. But as he tried to shift his weight to stand, his arm buckled and snapped with a sickening crack. He froze, staring at his broken limb in disbelief. He had fought giants. He had survived lava storms. He had never broken a bone. The truth hit him harder than the pain. Earth wasn't a soft world. It was the deadliest environment they had ever touched. The sky darkened slightly as clouds rolled in, and the sudden drop in temperature made every Dravacar gasp in shock. Earth's climate changed too fast, too sharp, too violently. The commander's voice trembled as he whispered, "This planet is a monster." And still, no human had appeared. The forest rustled suddenly, and all surviving Dravacar froze, terrified of what new horror might come next. They expected a great predator, a giant beast, some terrifying creature. But instead, out of the trees stepped a small human boy, no older than 10. He wore a red hoodie. He carried a tiny backpack. He was humming to himself. The Dravacar stared at him in disbelief, their fear twisting into confusion. The child noticed them and tilted his head curiously, saying in Earth's simple, innocent tone, "Are you guys okay? You look sick." Sick. A human child had called the strongest Deathwelders sick. The commander felt humiliation stab him deeper than any wound Earth had inflicted. He tried to rise, to look threatening, to prove Dravacar was still mighty. But the moment he moved, he collapsed again, unable to withstand gravity. The boy blinked. "Do you need help?" The Dravacar panicked. One soldier screamed, "Stay back, Earth creature. Do not touch us." The boy stepped back, confused. "Sorry," birds chirped overhead. The wind gently brushed the boy's hair. And the Dravacar realized something horrifying. Earth was perfectly safe for the child. He stood there fearless, breathing the same air that was destroying them, walking on the same ground that was breaking their bones, surrounded by the microbes that were devouring their skin. The commander swallowed hard. His entire species, terrifying apex predators of the galaxy, were being killed by a planet a human child could stroll on like it was nothing. The boy walked closer again, slower this time. My camp is nearby. My mom has water. Do you want, no?" The Dravacar roared in panic, all at once, making the boy jump. The commander shook, trying to form words. Leave us. Earth child, leave us to die." The boy frowned, confused. "Why would you die? You're really big. You look strong." One soldier whimpered. "Not on this world." The boy scratched his head, thinking. Then he shrugged. "Okay, I'll get an adult." "No!" The entire squad screamed again. But the boy was already running back into the forest to get his mother. Footsteps faded into the distance. The Dravacar trembled, staring at each other. Their strongest weapons useless. Their bodies failing. Their pride shattered. And still, no human adult had appeared. No army. No traps. No warship. Just Earth. Earth itself was fighting them. The commander lowered his head slowly, painfully, in a gesture no Dravacar had ever made before. Submission. To the most dangerous deathworld in the galaxy. He whispered with broken dignity, "We came to conquer Earth," his voice cracked. "But Earth is conquering us." And far away, unaware of the chaos they caused, the child laughed with his mother, walking casually through the forest. A forest that was killing the galaxy's strongest warriors with every breath. The Dravacar's greatest fear had come true. Earth wasn't a soft world. Humans weren't weak creatures. They were the apex predators of the deadliest planet the galaxy had ever known. And the Dravacar now understood. They were standing on the throne of something far more terrifying than themselves. And humanity hadn't even arrived yet. The Dravacar stumbled deeper into the forest, each step slower than the last, their bodies shaking under Earth's invisible weight, and the more they pushed forward, the more the planet pushed back as if Earth itself was rejecting their presence. Their elite captain, the strongest among them, tried to analyze the soil, but the moment he touched the ground, the harmless-looking dirt burned through 2 layers of his armor and left a sizzling mark on his claw, making him choke on a painful roar that echoed through the silent trees. The others watched in horror, because this was the warrior who once walked through rivers of acid on their home world without flinching. Yet here he was, trembling, his breath uneven, his vision blurry. The scientists tried adjusting their helmets, attempting to filter the air, but the oxygen percentage was too high, burning their lungs with every inhalation like they were inhaling fire instead of air. One of them shouted that Earth's microbes were multiplying at a terrifying speed inside their suits, bypassing their strongest filters, and the moment his voice cracked in fear, the others realized something none of them wanted to admit. This soft, weak, peaceful planet wasn't weak at all. It was a monster hiding behind blue skies and green trees. A younger warrior collapsed first, unable to take another breath. His armor shook violently, alarms blaring inside his suit as Earth's gravity pinned him to the ground like a giant invisible hand. 2 Dravakar rushed to lift him, but the moment they tried to pull him up, their own muscles screamed, and their bones cracked under the effort. They stopped instantly, terrified that their skeletons might snap if they strained any more. One soldier reached toward a tree for support, expecting weak bark, only to yank his hand back with a scream. Earth's plant surface wasn't like the fragile vegetation on other planets. It was dense, layered, evolved under extreme pressure. It cut straight through his glove like a blade. The group panicked, their breathing quickening, their fear spreading like poison. The captain tried to calm them, but even his voice shook now as he felt Earth's gravity forcing his knees down, reminding him that this planet was designed for a species far stronger than any of them. His helmet sensors flashed warnings: local bacteria attacking armor integrity, temperature unstable, oxygen overload, atmospheric pressure dangerous. All the numbers spiked red at once, and the captain realized this wasn't an ordinary environment. Earth wasn't just tough, it was lethal. And yet humans, the weak species, lived here every day as if it was nothing. One scientist staggered backward, eyes wide, pointing at a harmless-looking insect crawling on a leaf. That creature, that tiny creature, it pierced the suit, he shouted in terror, showing a microscopic hole dripping with their glowing purple blood. The other Dravakar backed away fast, terrified of an insect barely the size of their smallest claw. The insect buzzed toward another warrior, and he screamed and swung wildly, tripping over a root that felt like a steel beam. He hit the ground with a loud crash that shook his armor and knocked the air out of him. The forest seemed to whisper around them, trees creaking, wind drifting strangely, as if the planet itself was breathing and watching them. The captain finally ordered a retreat, shouting for his soldiers to return to the ship before Earth killed them all. But the moment they turned around, something else went wrong. Their path had changed. The forest seemed deeper, denser. The trees towered over them in terrifying shapes. Earth's gravity pressed heavier on them as panic rose. Their steps became smaller, their breaths shorter, their fear louder. Earth was crushing them slowly, quietly, mercilessly. And then, as if the universe wanted to remind them of their mistake, thunder boomed overhead. Not a normal thunder, but a violent, crushing sound that shook the sky itself. A storm was forming. Rain fell, cold, fast, and sharp like needles. It stung their exposed skin, burning like acid even though humans walked in this water without fear. A lightning bolt struck a nearby tree, exploding it into pieces, sending splinters flying like deadly shrapnel. The Dravakar ducked, terrified, screaming orders they couldn't follow because Earth had turned into a battlefield. One warrior yelled through static, "How do the humans survive this?" Another cried, "They live here every day. Every single day." The realization hit them harder than the storm. Humans weren't weak. Humans weren't soft. Humans weren't fragile. Humans lived on a world that could kill the strongest deathwelders in minutes. Humans evolved under gravity that crushed bones, air that burned lungs, bacteria that ate through armor, storms that destroyed forests, creatures that bit through metal. Their strongest soldier crawled toward the captain, whispering in a shaking voice, "We came to conquer, but this world rejects us. This world belongs to monsters." The captain didn't answer. He couldn't. His legs were numb, his arms trembling uncontrollably, his skin burning under Earth's atmosphere. He looked up through his helmet at the dark clouds gathering above, lightning flashing behind them like the planet itself was roaring, and for the first time in his life, he understood fear the way prey understands predators. The Dravacar had never bowed to anyone, never knelt, never surrendered. But the strongest one among them dropped to his knees, unable to rise again. The others followed, collapsing one by one, their bodies exhausted, their spirits broken. Earth had defeated them without even trying, and humans still hadn't arrived. The Dravacar tried to move deeper into the forest, but every step felt like a punishment from the planet itself, and the once fearless warriors who had conquered worlds soaked in acid rain and walked across molten stone were now struggling to breathe on what they believed was a soft world, their heavy armor dragging them down into the soil like quicksand, their lungs burning with every breath of Earth's rich oxygen. That felt more like fire than air, and as they stumbled forward, the bitter realization began to settle in their minds that something was horribly wrong, something they had never faced before, something that was slowly stripping away their pride layer by layer until only fear was left behind. Their leader, the strongest among them, barely managed to hold himself upright as gravity pressed him into the ground like an invisible fist, his legs trembling violently, and he muttered through clenched jaws that they needed to call for extraction, that Earth was not what the archives described, that this planet was a mistake. But before he could finish, one of the younger warriors fell to his knees and began clawing at his armor, screaming that something was crawling on his skin, tiny, invisible things biting into him, eating him alive, and the others joined in, swatting their arms, brushing their necks, their sharp voices cracking with a fear they had never allowed themselves to show because Earth's microbes had invaded them instantly, swarming them like an army of microscopic monsters. They stumbled to a clearing, gasping for air that felt like sharp needles stabbing their lungs, their vision blurring as the brightness of Earth's sunlight overwhelmed their senses, and even the gentle breeze felt like knives slicing across their thin reptilian skin that was adapted to hot toxic winds, not Earth's cold clean air. The leader slammed his hand against his communicator, trying to lift the device, but gravity dragged his arm down like it weighed 100 kilos, his muscles shaking, his bones creaking under the unbearable pressure, and he managed to send a weak signal to the ship, gasping, "Earth is not weak. Earth is a monster." Before the message transmitted fully, a rustle came from the bushes, and all 6 Dravacar turned sharply, their eyes widening, their claws raising in instinctive fear because something was moving nearby. Something big, something steady, something with a heartbeat so powerful it echoed through the ground. The leader signaled the team to form a defensive circle, but even that failed when the second strongest warrior collapsed again, crushed under the weight of a world they underestimated. The bushes parted slowly, and the Dravacar tensed, preparing for a predator, a giant beast, a creature worthy of this terrifying planet. But what stepped out was something they never expected. A human. Just a human. A simple Earth human in hiking boots, holding a walking stick, wearing a backpack, humming a calm tune as he walked along the forest path like it was nothing, like this world wasn't trying to kill them every second. The Dravacar froze in disbelief, unable to process how a creature so soft-looking, so fragile, so weak-skinned could move so effortlessly while they themselves were being crushed, poisoned, burned, bitten, and broken. The human looked at them with wide eyes, confused. "Hey, you guys okay? Need help?" he asked in a friendly tone, as if he wasn't speaking to legendary killing machines who had wiped out civilizations. The leader tried to speak but only coughed, Earth's air tearing at his throat. The human took a step closer, and the Dravacar flinched backward like prey, their instincts screaming, warning them, telling them the truth their pride had hidden. Whatever humans were, they were not weak. They were the apex of this unforgiving planet. They were the only species that thrived here. And suddenly it made sense why the galaxy whispered warnings about Earth. Suddenly it made sense why humans were called Deathwalders too. Maybe even the ultimate ones. The human knelt beside the leader, checking his breathing like he was examining an injured animal. "You guys look terrible," he said gently. "Gravity got you? Allergies?" He didn't even break a sweat while standing next to them. The Dravacar realized, with horrifying clarity, that everything on Earth was trying to kill them. Yet humans survived effortlessly. The jungle, The microbes, the air, the sunlight. These things were poison to the strongest deathwelders in the galaxy. But humans treated them like a normal Tuesday. The leader's claws trembled as he whispered in a weak rasp, "What are you?" The human laughed softly, unaware of the terror behind the question. "Me? I'm just a guy taking a hike." The Dravakar exchanged terrified glances. If one human could survive what broke them in minutes, what could an army of humans do? The human offered them water, talking kindly, unaware that even the act of lifting a bottle effortlessly was a display of power they couldn't comprehend. The Dravakar watched the water move inside the bottle, liquid, knowing even their armor couldn't survive full contact with Earth's water for long due to unknown minerals. The human drank it without fear. They stared as he breathed Earth's oxygen easily, walked in Earth's gravity with relaxed posture, let Earth's microbes touch his skin with no reaction. Everything that crushed them, humans embraced. The leader whispered again, voice trembling, "This planet, it likes you." The human chuckled. "Well, I live here." That was when realization struck the Dravakar like lightning. Humans didn't just survive Earth. Humans mastered Earth. And anything that mastered this deadly planet was something the galaxy should fear. They knew then that they had made the biggest mistake of their lives coming here. And Earth had not even begun to show its real dangers. The Dravakar warriors moved deeper into the quiet forest, limping, hunched, struggling to breathe in the strange heavy air that wrapped around their bodies like an invisible chain. Each breath feeling like they were swallowing molten metal as Earth's atmosphere pressed into their lungs with a cruel strength they had never experienced before. And for the first time their pride cracked as they realized this planet was not soft, nor gentle, nor harmless, but something entirely different. Something that didn't scream its danger with giant monsters or toxic storms but whispered it in a silent, deadly way that felt colder than any battlefield they had walked upon. The leader, Viekor, dragged one leg through the grass as it burned against his skin like acid, each blade slicing deeper because Earth's plant life was far stronger and far sharper than anything on their homeworld, and he snarled in pain as he leaned against a tree, only to scream when the bark blistered his hand. The tree releasing natural chemicals that reacted violently with Dravakar skin, causing boils to rise instantly. His soldiers panicked, their proud, fearless eyes now full of terror as they tried to avoid touching anything around them, hopping from rock to rock like prey rather than predators, desperate to escape something they couldn't fight, couldn't shoot, couldn't overpower. One of the younger warriors fell to his knees, vomiting violently as Earth's microbes invaded his body, multiplying faster than any alien pathogen the Dravakar had catalogued, and he cried out to his leader, his voice shaking, begging, "Viekor, this world, it's killing us." Viekor wanted to curse him for weakness, but when he opened his mouth, the words turned into a pained gasp as even Earth's air ripped through his throat like tiny razors. He raised a trembling hand, signaling his warriors to keep moving, to find higher ground, to escape this strange invisible battlefield. But every step felt heavier, every inch of Earth's ground felt like sinking into quicksand, their bodies collapsing under a gravity they arrogantly believed they could tame. They dragged themselves through the forest, their armor sputtering, glitching, overheating. The energy cores flickering because Earth's electromagnetic waves interfered with their systems in ways they had never experienced. Sparks flew from their suits as circuits fried, leaving them exposed and vulnerable. When one warrior tried to remove his helmet for more air, the second the earth wind touched his face, his eyes watered, his skin blistered, and he screamed as tiny harmless earth insects crawled onto him, their bites harmless to humans but toxic to Dravakars, sending their nervous system into shock. Another warrior stumbled back, stepping into a small mud puddle, only to shriek as Earth's bacteria filled his wounds, causing a burning sensation that traveled through his bloodstream like liquid fire. They were used to planets that tried to kill them with visible danger, massive storms, volcanic eruptions, giant predators, but Earth was different. Earth smiled while killing them. Earth looked peaceful while being the most dangerous enemy they had ever faced. Earth wasn't a death world. Earth was something far worse. They reached a small clearing, gasping, trembling, bodies twitching from invisible attacks, and Viekor collapsed against a rock, forcing himself to stay conscious, knowing that if he didn't lead, his soldiers would lose their minds entirely. One soldier, the largest and strongest among them, fell face first into the dirt, his chest barely rising, whispering, This planet should not exist. Viacor managed to lift his head, his eyes foggy, but when he looked around, he froze, not from pain but from a new fear rising inside him. A fear so deep it made his blood run cold. Because standing at the edge of the clearing was a human. A simple human. No armor. No weapon. No fear. Just a backpack, a jacket, and a confused expression. The human tilted his head, watching the Dravakars like someone watching animals trapped in a net, and took a slow step forward. Viacor's warriors scrambled, trying to stand, trying to raise their weapons. But their arms trembled too much. The guns fell from their hands, landing uselessly on the ground. The human blinked slowly, then said, in a calm, almost curious voice, "You guys okay?" The Dravakar stared at him in disbelief, their strongest warrior whispering in terror, "Impossible. He is walking, freely, on this cursed world." Viacor tried to speak, tried to order an attack, but only a broken whisper escaped. The human crouched casually, looking at their sparking armor and blistered skin, and said softly, "You're not from around here, huh?" There was no fear in his voice. No tension. Only mild concern, like someone noticing stray dogs lost in the wrong neighborhood. The Dravakar, the ultimate deathwelders, the strongest species in the galaxy, stared at this soft, harmless-looking human who stood comfortably on a planet that was killing them. The human stood up, stretching his arms lazily, then said, "If you're looking for a fight, Earth's a bad place. She doesn't like uninvited guests." Viacor felt his breath freeze as he realized something horrifying. Earth wasn't the monster. Humans were the result of surviving the monster. Everything humans did, every breath they took, every muscle they moved, happened on the most violent ecosystem the Dravakar had ever encountered. And humans thrived here. The jungle wind blew softly. Leaves rustled gently. Birds chirped above. Meanwhile the Dravakar felt themselves slowly dying. And the humans simply smiled, hands in pockets, looking like this deadly world was nothing more than home. That moment broke them. The fear they felt wasn't just of Earth anymore. It was of humanity. Because if humans had evolved on this planet, if humans grew strong enough to walk freely on a world that crushed the Dravakar like insects, then humanity was something the galaxy had never understood. Something the Dravakar could never defeat. Viacor's trembling voice cracked as he whispered to his soldiers, "Retreat, we must retreat, now." But Earth was not done teaching the Dravakar their place. And the humans standing before them was only the beginning of the nightmare they had awakened. The Dravakar leader tried to stand again, his massive frame shaking under Earth's crushing weight as he slammed one claw into the dirt to steady himself. But even that simple movement made his bones scream, something he had never felt on any death world he conquered, and the idea that a soft world could bring him to his knees wrapped fear around his throat like a tightening rope. The other warriors struggled behind him, some coughing violently as Earth's oxygen flooded their lungs like burning acid, others clawing at their armor because the microbes eating through it made their skin itch and blister in ways their healing glands couldn't fix fast enough. And each second turned their pride into terror as they realized this world they mocked was not gentle at all, but a silent monster waiting to swallow them whole. The commander tried to give an order, but his voice cracked under the pressure of Earth's gravity crushing his ribs, and the thought that he, who had commanded armies that tore apart worlds, could barely breathe made him shake with humiliation, but also something he never experienced before, helplessness. Their strongest soldier, Kraxa, who once lifted boulders heavier than starship engines, lay face first in the grass, twitching, gasping, unable to rise, his armor steaming as Earth's microscopic lifeforms infiltrated every seam, eating at the metal like invisible predators. The youngest warrior, barely a soldier by their standards, whimpered as he grabbed the commander's leg, begging to return to the ship, begging to escape this nightmare planet, and the commander wanted to snap at him for showing fear, but he couldn't, because deep inside his own chest, a cold truth was forming like frost. Earth was killing them. Slowly, quietly, effortlessly. Every species they had faced before, acid beasts, razor-wing predators, sand serpents the size of mountains, had attacked physically, with claws, fangs, speed, teeth. But this planet attacked with air, with dirt, with microbes so small they couldn't be seen, with gravity so heavy it felt like invisible hands pushing them into the ground, with sunlight so intense it scorched their armor and forced their eyes to squint under the brightness. This planet didn't fight with monsters. This planet was the monster. And worst of all, the humans, this world's native species, still hadn't appeared. If the planet itself was this deadly, what were its people like? The commander managed to lift his head, panting, scanning the area for any sign of the humans, but all he saw were trees swaying gently, as if mocking their suffering, and clouds drifting calmly across the sky, peaceful and beautiful, hiding the deadly truth under a soft surface. One warrior screamed suddenly as Earth's soil began burning his exposed claws. He tried to shake it off, but the microbes clung to him like living glue, and he stumbled backward, collapsing onto his knees, sobbing for the first time in his life. The commander crawled toward him, dragging his massive body like a wounded animal, shouting orders that came out broken and weak. But he had to try. He had to protect his soldiers, even though everything inside him whispered the same terrifying truth. They were not the hunters anymore. They were prey. His vision blurred, darkness creeping at the edges as Earth's atmosphere crushed him like a vice. And just as his arm gave out and he fell onto his side with a heavy thud, he heard something that made his blood freeze. Footsteps. Light. Calm. Completely unbothered. Human footsteps. He forced his eyes open, struggling to raise his head even a few centimeters, and saw a human walking toward them across the field. A simple human, wearing nothing but jeans and a hoodie, holding a cup of coffee in one hand and a confused expression on their face. No armor. No fear. No panic. Just mild curiosity, like someone who found stray animals in their backyard. The human tilted their head and said, You guys okay?" The Dravakar commander's heart hammered in terror. The human was breathing the same air that crushed their lungs, walking casually on the same soil that burned their skin, standing effortlessly under the same gravity that shattered their bones. The human took another step closer, sipping coffee, eyes widening slightly as they noticed the largest warrior twitching on the ground. "Wow, you look bad. Need help?" The Dravakar soldiers whimpered. They, the strongest deathwelders of the galaxy, were shaking in fear of a human holding a hot drink. The commander felt something break inside him. Not physically, emotionally. Everything he had believed his whole life was a lie. Humans were not weak. They were not soft. They were not harmless. They were surviving, no, thriving, on a planet that was trying to kill the Dravakar with every breath. Earth was the deadliest deathworld they had ever encountered, and humans evolved on it. The commander whispered, voice trembling, "What are you?" The human blinked, confused, then shrugged. Human." The Dravakars whimpered harder. The human took out their phone casually. "I'm calling an ambulance. You guys look like you need a hospital or something." The commander shook violently, trying to lift one claw. No hospitals. Why?" the human asked, sipping coffee again. "Are you allergic?" The commander wanted to scream. Hospitals? Allergic? Did humans not understand how terrifying they were? How impossible? How strong? How deadly? But the young human just watched them like they were sick pets needing help. And that terrified the Dravakar more than any predator they had ever faced. Because if humans considered them harmless, then what was humanity truly capable of? The Dravakar war commander staggered through the burned patch of grass, clutching his cracked armor as Earth's impossible weight pulled on every bone in his body, each step feeling like he was carrying a mountain on his back. And as he looked around at his collapsing squad, once the strongest warriors in the galaxy, now trembling, coughing, and fighting for breath on a soft planet, he felt something inside him break in a way it never had before, because he had seen war, seen death, seen planets crumble under his feet. But he had never seen fear inside his own soldiers' eyes until they set foot on Earth. The sun above them felt like fire piercing their armor. Earth's gravity crushed their lungs. The microbes in the air crawled under their skin like an invisible army killing them from the inside. And he watched one soldier fall face first into the dirt, gasping for mercy in a voice that didn't even sound like a Dravakar anymore, and the commander wanted to help him, but he could barely stand himself, his legs shaking under Earth's brutal pull. The air felt thick, heavy, poisoned with life, too much life, millions of species swirling around them that their bodies weren't designed to handle, and every breath felt like inhaling fire. The commander activated his suit to signal retreat, but the suit flickered, then shut down completely, sparks shooting from the control panel, and he screamed in frustration because Dravacar technology wasn't supposed to fail. Nothing across the stars had ever broken their tech this easily, but Earth did it like crushing a leaf under a boot. One of the younger warriors crawled toward him, his claws digging into the soil, whispering with trembling lips, "Commander, we have to escape. This world, this cursed world, it's killing us." The commander looked down at him, seeing blood dripping from the warrior's fangs, his once bright eyes fading, and a surge of anger rose in the commander's chest. Not anger at the warrior, but anger at this planet, this deceptively calm and deadly place that hid death behind beauty. He forced himself to stand, even as his bones screamed in pain, and he roared for the remaining soldiers to regroup, but only 4 of them were able to lift their heads, the rest lying motionless across the field, Earth claiming their lives like a silent executioner. Suddenly, a shadow fell over them. The commander jerked his head upward, expecting another threat, but what he saw made his blood freeze. A human standing on a small hill, arms crossed, watching them with a calm expression that sent pure terror down the commander's spine. Because humans were supposed to be weak, fragile, soft, yet this human stood under the burning sun without armor, without struggle, without pain. The human walked toward them casually, stepping over fallen branches and sharp rocks like they were nothing, and the closer he came, the more the Dravacar trembled, because even the air around the human felt heavier, stronger, alive with something they didn't understand. The commander tried to speak, but the human raised a hand gently as if telling him to save his breath. The human knelt beside one of the dying Dravacar soldiers, touching the armor like someone examining a broken toy, and said in a calm, almost sad voice, "You shouldn't have come here. Earth is not soft." The commander's throat tightened, his pride battling his fear, and he growled weakly, "What are you?" The human looked at him with eyes that held storms, calm oceans, ancient mountains, things older and stronger than any death world the Dravacar had ever walked, and he replied softly, "I'm just human." Those words crushed the commander more than Earth's gravity ever could. The human stood, looking at the dying warriors scattered across the ground, and he didn't look angry or mocking. He looked disappointed, like a parent watching children who wandered into danger they couldn't understand. "You came here thinking humans were weak," the human said, his voice quiet but powerful. "You came here thinking your world was harder, stronger, crueler." He stepped closer, standing only a foot away from the commander, who could barely lift his head. "But Earth made us. Earth shaped us. Earth broke us and rebuilt us 1,000 times." The commander felt his heart slowing, his organs failing, Earth attacking him from the inside out. The human crouched down, looking straight into his fading eyes. "We aren't the strongest in the galaxy because of weapons," the human whispered. "We're strong because we survived this planet." The commander felt darkness pulling him, but before everything faded, he managed to breathe out one final whisper, full of disbelief and fear. "Earth is a death world," the human nodded slowly. "The first. The worst. And you walked into it unprepared." And as the commander collapsed, consciousness slipping away, he realized one final truth. Everything the Dravacar had believed about Earth was a lie. Earth was not gentle. Earth was not soft. Earth was not weak. Earth was the universe's greatest test, and humans were the monsters it forged. The Dravacar warriors tried to stand again, their bodies shaking under Earth's crushing weight, their lungs burning as the air stabbed them from the inside, and their armor flickering with red warning lights none of them had ever seen before, and as they collapsed again onto the dirt, they realized something terrifying. Earth wasn't a gentle planet at all. It was a monster wearing the skin of a paradise. The ground vibrated from deep beneath them, tiny tremors that felt like warning growls, and the air became thicker, heavier, pushing against their chests like an invisible fist. One warrior tried to send a distress signal, but the moment he activated his communicator, the device sparked, melted, and fused to his hand, making him scream with a fear no Dravacar had ever expressed on any other world. Another reached for his blade, but even the metal reacted badly, corroding instantly, causing the blade to bend like soft clay before turning black and snapping apart. And the Dravacar stared at the broken weapon with shaking eyes because for the first time in their brutal lives, they were completely unarmed. Suddenly the wind howled, not like a breeze but like a wild creature hungry for prey, lifting dust around them in spirals that struck their armor like tiny knives, and the Dravakar warriors crouched low, clutching their stinging faces and shouting warnings to each other in panicked voices. They had faced beasts made of stone, storms made of acid, and creatures that swallowed cities, but nothing ever attacked them in silence the way Earth did. Gravity crushed them, microbes invaded them, the atmosphere poisoned them, the soil stung them, the plants radiated strange energy, and the temperature shifted so quickly it felt like the planet was testing them, studying them, deciding whether they deserved to live. They began to crawl back toward their ship, dragging themselves inch by inch because their legs refused to hold them anymore. Their strongest warrior let out a painful growl as blood dripped from his mouth, thick and dark, and for the first time his voice cracked as he whispered, "This world, it rejects us." Another Dravakar warrior tried to reply, but his voice died in his throat as the ground trembled again. Softly, slowly, like something massive was moving underground. Panic spread through the group. Something was coming. Something they couldn't see. Something that made even Deathwelders tremble. Then came the moment none of them expected, the moment that silenced all their fear. Footsteps. Slow. Calm. Human. They all turned their heads with trembling necks and saw a human standing on the hill above them, holding nothing but a walking stick and a cup of coffee, watching them with a confused look on his face as if he couldn't understand why a group of elite alien Deathwelders were rolling on the ground like injured animals. The Dravakar stared at him in horror, their minds unable to comprehend how a species so physically fragile-looking could stand so effortlessly on a planet that was killing them. The human blinked, scratched his head, and muttered, "Are you guys okay?" The Dravakar leader tried to speak, but his voice cracked into a broken hiss as he whispered, How can you stand?" The human laughed softly. "Stand? Bro, this is a normal Tuesday morning." The Dravakar's fear grew into something darker, realization. Humans weren't weak. Humans weren't soft. Humans weren't gentle. Humans were creatures built for this death world, born from its fire, raised by its storms, carved by its gravity. Humans were the children of this monster planet, and they survived it every day like it was nothing. The human took a sip of his coffee and walked closer with casual steps, completely unaffected by the gravity that was crushing alien bones and the microbes that were tearing through alien bloodstreams. He bent down, lifted the Dravakar's fallen weapon effortlessly, and frowned. "Metal allergies? You guys need better gear." The Dravakar stared at him as if he was a cosmic god, and in some way, he was. Earth had shaped humans into something unbreakable, something unmatched, something terrifying. The human crouched beside the strongest warrior, offering him water. The warrior tried to lift his hand but couldn't, so the human gently helped him drink, shaking his head. "You all need hospitals or something." The Dravakar couldn't understand the softness in his voice. Why would a dominant apex predator offer help to enemies? Why would a creature of such power choose kindness? And then it hit them. True strength wasn't just in survival. It was in compassion. The Dravakar leader forced out a painful whisper. "Your world is impossible, and yet you thrive." The human shrugged. "We just call it Earth." The sky rumbled above them, thunder cracking the air, and the Dravakar flinched violently, thinking another predator was coming. The human simply looked up and sighed. "Storm's coming. Better get you guys under shelter." The Dravakar could hardly breathe as they watched him move, calm, steady, fearless. Not because Earth was easy, but because humans had mastered the monster planet that was trying to kill them every second at a T that moment. The Dravakar understood the greatest truth the galaxy had forgotten. Humans were the real Deathwelders, the ultimate apex species, the quiet conquerors, the silent survivors. And as the human signaled for help on his radio, calling for medical aid with the tone of someone speaking about a normal accident, the Dravakar lay trembling in the dirt, realizing that their greatest mistake was not underestimating Earth. It was underestimating the species born from it, and while rain began to fall, heavy and merciless, the Dravakar watched the human walk fearlessly through it, approaching them with a blanket and a calm voice, proving once more why humanity was feared, respected, and whispered about in every corner of the galaxy. Not because humans sought war, but because humans could survive what no one else could. Earth was the final test. And humans were the answer.